Hello, Professor Toybox here, and I'm back in my Hawaiian Grand Prix toy box with Stitch. Today I'm going to finish placing the terrain in and around my racetrack, and then I'll start adding all the details. And we're going to begin over here on this end of the beach, and I'll come into Spark mode here. So this little peninsula here is what we're going to start with, and I've already taken the liberty of setting the terrain to the tri-state area terrain, and so I'm going to go ahead and pick this piece up, which I put down last time, and we're going to grab this piece right next door to it and drop this right up here at the same level as the other, and you'll notice that's a block above the surface of the beach, and so that one goes in here just like that. And then we'll pick up this next size smaller and put that in right over here. I want to make sure that lines up with the edge of the block we just put down. And it does, so we'll put that one in. And then we'll grab the next one smaller. And we'll put this in on these corners. And we'll come across and pick up on the other side as well. And this one we're going to put 5 of these down along here just like that. Okay, and now that we have that, let's go ahead and I think the closest block is over here. I want to pick up these little edge pieces. That gets us back to that part of the terrain drawer. We're going to begin on this corner and work our way around. So this will sit right up here next to that. And then we'll scroll over and pick up this corner and fit this in just like that. And we'll put one in on the other side as well. And then we'll fill this with some straight edges. Like that. And I'm going to use the next size smaller, because in those two spaces there, we're going to fit a curve in here. Whoops. Did not want to do that. And that curve is going to sit in there like that. And then we're going to use this canyon wall and bring this out like this and stop at that point. Okay, and the last little terrain detail over here, let's go ahead and pick this up one more time. And we're going to fit this in around the edge of this turn. And this kind of prevents the player from cheating and cutting the corner there. So between this hill and the plants we're going to put in later, it'll force the player to have to follow the track. Okay, now this end of the toy box over here, I put down this terrain and it's actually not quite right. And so I'm going to remove these 2 blocks over here on the end. And we're going to put down a straight edge. And I'm going to line this up with the with the terrain block underneath here. Like that. So you can see the larger block it's lined up with, except I'm not going to drop it there. I'm going to bring it out so that the edge of that cliff face is right along the edge of the track. And so let me come up here, give you a little bit better look at that. So that's where I want that to sit, is just like that. Okay, and then what we're going to do now is come over and pick up, let's see, we'll pick up this one. We're going to have to move these, but I'm going to drop this down for some spacing right along here. And you could use a little bit larger block, I suppose. It's not too technical, but I want to put this right where I had it before. And so this block now slides over and sits next to those two. And this one sits over like that. And the reason I did this area over here is going to be covered up with plants anyway, so you're not going to see that nice edge. And so it saves a little bit of memory, but of course it doesn't really matter. If you wanted to put a little bit larger block in here, that's fine, and push that over. The point is that this isn't going to sit in here nice and pretty. So if you end up trying to stick this block in there, it's going to push it over too far past that cliff edge, and I definitely don't want that. So we're actually going to have to drop this out here. And I think the curve is going to determine where we place this. So we'll pick that up and put it down, grab this canyon curve. We're going to drop this in right there like that. Okay? And now we know where to place these. And then we can go ahead and just line these up across here. Like that. Delete that one. Pick this one up. Put it down. And this should sit right in here like that. And again, I don't really care that this doesn't have a nice neat edge. What I really don't want, again, is to have this sticking out past this as you're looking that way. Because otherwise, as you're coming down this stretch of the track, looking in that direction, it's going to look weird if that's sticking out. But this little hole that's carved out is going to be covered up with plants, and you're never going to see that. All right, so now that we have that, we can go ahead and put the nice cliff front on it and finish off this edge over here like that. Okay, and that area is done. Now we'll go ahead and start up here, and for this I'm going to grab a different cliff face. We're going to use this one. And I'm going to drop this down right along here. And it's just so that you have that rough edge as you come off the top on the edge there, so it's not perfectly straight is really all I need, because the player isn't going to be seeing this side of the cliff face. They will kind of see it over on this side though. And so that's kind of important. And let me grab my screenshot here. Yeah. All right, and then this one we're going to put down, but I'm going to change this texture at this point. And if you don't have this power disc, that's fine. You can continue using that granite if you want, or use something else. But for getting into the jungle and the temple, I'm going to use the Dinosaur World terrain customization from 2.0, and I do not want to switch that world to that theme. And so now I can come in here and style this, and I'm going to set that to be my theme. That just kind of looks nice because it looks overgrown with vines, and I really like the way that looks. And the fact that you have this sharp break here doesn't really matter, because the player's not going to see that. They're going to be coming down this canyon and coming around the corner, and it's not until they get over to this point that they're going to see a glimpse of this surface over here. And so the fact that you have that seam there doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and put that down and put the corner piece on like that. And then coming around the corner here, we're going to put down 4 of these across here like this. Okay. And then we're done with this texture for a little while. I'm going to pick this piece up and put it down. And then we're going to pick up this little tall terrain block. It's a 2x2. I'm going to drop this in here just like this. And now we're going to change the texture. And we're going to set this one, let's see if I go to the left, I think it'd be faster, to King Louis's Ruins. And I'm going to set that to be the theme, because we're going to build the temple now. So we want this to look like a hidden temple in the jungle. And so we're going to stack 2 of those up like that. And then we're going to pick up this tiny terrain block over here. And we're going to set this about halfway back like that. Okay? And we're going to stack 2 of them on top of each other. And I kind of like having the vines up there like that, but we'll rotate it around. So we've got that. And then we're going to put a longer one up across the top. Come back to this tiny one. And we're going to stack that up on top, and I'll rotate it so it's hopefully not quite the same. There we go. And then we'll pick up another one, and we'll go ahead and rotate that as well. So let's see, is that the same on both sides? It's the same on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. Then we'll go ahead and put one more down like that. Okay, so now there's the entrance to the tunnel taking shape. And now come back over here again so we don't have to scroll, and I'm going to pick that piece up and put it down. And we're going to go left. And I am looking for these cave pieces right here. So we're going to slide these in like this and kind of make a opening that looks like it's been carved. So it's not quite so square. So just like that. And I like how that looks. Okay, and then coming around this side, we're going to come over here and grab the same block and start putting it along the edge over here. And we're going to put 6 of them down. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. All right, and then we'll put this corner piece in next to that so that it's sitting like this. And this piece will sit in here like that, because we're going to be going around a little bit of a corner here. And this piece goes in like this. And so now we have the opening on this end. And then we're going to put another 2x2 in here. So I'm going to put, hopefully save room for that. Let's line it up with this one down here. Like that. Okay. And then one more time. We're going to put this one down like this. And a corner piece. And then we're going to take this and run it all the way down to the other end. So I'm building the inside of the temple here. So just like that. Okay. And then let's go ahead and pick this piece up. We're going to drop this down right out here, followed by 2 of these. There we are. And then just so it doesn't look too totally weird, there's a cave ceiling piece. We're going to put that across like that. And unfortunately, I can't put anything in here, so we'll just have to live with that. But since the player is not going to be looking at the scenery too much under here, I'm not too worried. Now for this terrain block here that we put down last time, let's go ahead and style this to use King Louis's ruins as well. And unfortunately, I cannot do that with this side because that's just going to go way out here much too far. So we'll just have to live with it like that. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and pick this piece up. Get back to this part of the drawer, and we'll fill this in over here, like that. And this piece in over here. See, that goes too far that way, so we'll have to set it like that. Okay. So there we are. And now we need the ceiling. Let me just grab my screenshot here for this. Okay. So for the ceiling, we're going to start with this piece here. And I'm going to drop this right down on top of this. And the orientation, you don't have to worry about that, because really the player's not going to see this too much. We're going to cover this up. This piece will sit in here like this. And then we need two small pieces to sit in here like that. And you can see it overlaps with the ones below, so there shouldn't be any gaps. Okay. And there we go. There's our temple. And then we probably want to put in some kind of a block underneath here. And I want to go ahead and set the theme on here to be the tri-state area. I'll set that to be my theme. And we could even use the jungle theme there, I suppose. But it doesn't really matter because the player's not really going to get a good look at that. It's just a very quick glimpse. I'm going to go ahead and set that one to be the King Louis's ruins, just so when you come through here it looks consistent on either side. And then that one I'll leave grass, so again it looks consistent on either side of the track. All right. Now, last thing is we got this hole up here, and it just looks really plain as you're coming down the track here, looking over that direction. And so we're going to go ahead and set the theme once again to be the Dragon's Domain. And we'll go ahead and put in some corners here. And I'm going to put this down, I think I had it just like that. Let me double check. Yep. Okay, so it's lined up like that. And then we'll go ahead and put this in, which covers up the hole there. That covers up the hole there. And that covers up the hole from there. So now coming through here, you don't see any of that. And it adds a little bit of a peak, a little bit of interest there, which is good. All right, now let's go ahead and put the cliff here around the temple. And so one more time, we're going to style this, oops, to the left, I think. There it is. To be the dinosaur world, I'll set that to be my theme. And then we'll come over here and yeah. Come back over to the right, and I'm going to grab this half-width cliff, which is 3 blocks long, and we'll put that there. And so we don't have a rough edge on it, we'll put that piece there like that. Put this one around the corner, and then we're going to run this all the way down the side of this. And then we'll mirror what we did on the other side. Okay. So now that kind of covers that up a little bit. That looks a little bit better. You put some plants in front of that and it's going to look pretty good. Now on this end, we need to cover up this ugliness. So we're going to put this piece in here like this. We're going to run this across the face of this, just like that. And I'll go ahead and put another corner over here, like that. And we've got a bit of a gap here, but I don't think that would be a problem. However, we could put in one of these, just to kind of fill that hole, because you will be able to see that potentially very briefly, but from over here as you're coming around this bend and you're looking over that way. So it's kind of nice to have that plugged, and we could probably do the same here as well. So we could put in, let's see, whoops, wrong way. We could put in this little partial cliff here if we wanted to, but I'm going to put in something else here, so that's probably not going to work. We'll see what we can fit in there. We're going to start with this canyon wall, and we're going to put this in here like this. And I'm going to change this to be the Phineas and Ferb tri-state area. Wrong way. There it is. I'll set that to be the theme. Should be changing any moment. There it goes. That covers up some of that ugliness there. And then you've still got that hole back in there, but I think we'll be all right. We can cover that up with some other stuff. All right. So we're doing really good here. The last little bit of terrain we need is up on top of the rise up here. And once again, we're going to start with this piece. And we're going to put this just like that. So at the edge of the cliff, right like that. Okay. And then I need one of these blocks, so I'll pick that up and put it down. We're going to put this right here like that. And then we need another one of these on the other side. Okay. And then one more time, pick that up, put it down, go over to the left two, and we're going to put a couple of these down. Followed by that one. That creates the little tunnel that that you're going to go through where the mines are rolling out from. Okay. And then let's pick this piece up again, put it down. I'm going to grab this long, tiny, and thin block. We're going to put a row of these across the front. Whoops, sorry, not that one. I need the taller one so there's no gaps. We need that one. Like that. And then let's go ahead and pick this up, put it down, and go to the left. And we need to find the other set of cliff faces that are a little bit smaller. So these right here. And if I put this up like this, you still have that square edge there, so we're going to drop that down a little bit. That makes that a lot less square looking. On the back side though, I don't care. There we are. So as we're coming up the hill, we've got kind of a jagged edge. It looks a little bit more natural. And then coming out from the other side, you've got that jagged edge there as well. Okay, with that, we have all of the terrain in. So let's start filling in some of the details. And I'm going to begin over here with the docks underneath this road. And actually, even before that, one of the things I noticed here was we've got the textures a little bit misaligned. So I think if I flip this around, yeah, the seam there is a lot less noticeable. So I like that a little bit better. Okay, so if we come down to Building Sets Group 4, and we go to the left, we come to the Pirates set. And we're going to look for this dock piece. We'll start over on this end. Because right now this road is sitting up in the middle of the sky. And that's just looking a little weird. And if you flip this around, it's not quite as repetitive. So you're going to do that all the way down until you get to the other end. And by the way, with this curve sitting in here, there's a little bit of a gap there. So let's go ahead and pick this up, put it down, and we're going to put in this block here, kind of plug that gap. So that looks a little bit better. Okay, so you're going to run that dock all the way down to the other end. And then we're going to put the buildings in. And for the buildings, you're going to find those in Building Sets Group 2. And I was just looking for my screenshot there. So we'll start with these first. We got a whole bunch of them along here. And I want this to look like it's kind of a touristy dock area. So this one looks a little bit like a diner, is a good one to use. You can put some building fronts on some of these. So, for example, you can put, let's use the red one. I'll build this as I had it exactly before. And for this one, we want that. So that has just kind of a nice beach looking place to it with the plants there. And you can put two of them next to each other if you want that are the same. I'll put a couple of white ones down and then a couple of red ones. Oops, I thought I placed that. What is that hitting? Interesting. Can't see what that's hitting. All right, well, we'll look at that a little bit later. Yeah, it's bumping into something. I am not sure what. I wonder if it's this start piece. Let's go ahead and move this. It's not highlighting in red, but yeah, it's bumping into that. Okay, so we'll put the buildings in first then. I'll put 2 red ones in, and then another one of those ones with the plants and the canopy, like that. And you got some different ones in here. Mix it up a little bit. Although be aware that every one of these you put down, different style that is going to use a little bit of extra memory. So if you can mix it up and use the same ones, that's even better. Okay, now let's see if it'll let me put this in here. Yeah, now it's fine. That's weird. But anyway, there we go. And then for those plain buildings, if you come to the buildings group and go left, you have these nice little fronts. So you can put some of these on here. So we could put, for example, this brick one in front of this brick building. Like that. Can make this look like a nice little apartment complex here. Something like that. I don't think it's going to let us put this. Oh, it will. Okay. It wouldn't let us put the building there, but it doesn't mind that. Isn't that weird? Will it let us put that one there? No, that one is not going to be happy with. We could put this here like that. And then on the brick building, put that one in. Put this one in on there like that. That just kind of creates a nice little scenic walkway there. So that's pretty nice. And at this point, we have everything mostly except trees and a few other little finishing touches. Now the trees can take up a lot of memory if you use too many. So you need to be strategic about how you use them. And we'll come down here to the plants drawer. I'll give you a few pointers, and then I'll do all of my tree placement offline, and I'll show you the final result. So we have a lot of large areas, and one of the things you can do is you can use some of the larger trees, like we have this pirate tree that takes up a lot of space. And so we can put these in here, and this is going to help us save a little bit of memory. And I want this to kind of overlap the road a bit, but you don't want to put the tree trunk right up on the edge of the road. You need to leave a little bit of a barrier there so that the cars don't get hung up on it. And so you can put that like that. You can put another one over here, maybe like this. But again, you don't want to put it right up on the road, and it's going to bump into that one anyway. You could even put this back just a little bit, because the cars might try to take, especially the AI cars, might try to take that corner a little sharply. And so you don't want them to get hung up there. So you're just going to place these around. You can have them overlap and hang over the beach a little bit. You can do all kinds of stuff with them. You can kind of line them up. You see how that overlaps a little bit. So you could do that, but again, don't let the trunk there get too close to the edge of the road. So you're going to go ahead and place these all along the road here, and I'll show you my placement when we get done. Now the next piece of this, a lot of the trees that I put down were these customizable pieces. And there's a whole bunch of different pieces here, but essentially, let me find a good screenshot here. So you'll want to put in some of these things, and I like to cover up kind of some of the rough edges there, so like put some of these along here so that they're not kind of helps soften the edge of that. And again, we're going to style these when we're done. But the key here is you only want to place the trees in the places along the road where the player is going to see them. And so as we're coming up over here, for example, you'll want some trees maybe on either side, but you don't have to stick a bunch of them back in this corner because the player is never going to see that. And so you want to be careful not to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and take these bridge pieces out for right now, just to get them out of the way. We're going to put those down with a replayer next episode anyway. So yeah, you only want to put things down where the player is going to see them. You don't have to completely fill an area just for the sake of filling the space, because again, you want to watch the memory. If you look over on the right, the memory is already half full, and we've got a huge toy box to fill with trees. So you got to be very strategic which ones you use. Again, you can use, I gave you this tip last time I think, but you can use terrain textures to fill an area and give it some visual interest, and I did that here. So I'm not going to put actually any plants on these terrain blocks, and that texture alone adds some interest and makes it look good. And another hint, if you have a nice edge like this along the toy box, you could come in here if you really wanted to and put down a nice edge of plants along this, but there's really no need because you've got a nice scenic kind of edge. It's not sharp, and you've got a beautiful skybox. So rather than cover up the skybox with some plants and try to make that look interesting, just enjoy the edge that you've got here, the nice scenic edge and the nice sky dome, skybox, and enjoy that. And that'll save you some memory. So you don't need to place those along there like that. Now, if you have an unfinished edge over here, as I was mentioning earlier, you could cover this up with plants rather than try to stick a lot of little terrain pieces in here to try to make this look pretty. It's probably cheaper memory-wise to cover that up with plants so that the player can't see it. And so I'm going to go ahead and do my plant placement offline, and you don't need to watch me place them all because that would be boring. But when I'm done, I'll come back and give you an aerial view of the toy box so you can see where I placed my trees and which ones I used, and that should be enough for you to recreate what I've built. Okay, I'm back, and I've got all of the trees placed, but before I style them, I'll show you which ones I've used and where I've placed them. And you can pause this video along the way if you're trying to recreate my toy box for yourself and copy what I've done. First, you can see that I've run the dock all the way across the boardwalk, and I've also added some stairs across from the starting pad. I've got 2 of these from the plants drawer, Fantasy Terrain 5, along with a couple of tiki torches from the decorations drawer, and these surfboards from the Gameplay Toys drawer, and you need Stitch's Tropical Rescue for those, from 2.0. I've got 2 of these larger trees set up over here, and again, the placement of these doesn't really matter. You just want to get these in roughly the same spot. So we've got some trees along here on the beach. I've got 2 trees over here on the end, like that. And then for these trees, and you'll notice I have not filled in the entire area. I left this area empty. And the reason is the player is never going to see that area, so there's no point in wasting memory. And you don't have to get the placement of these trees exactly like mine. I'll show you where I've got them in a moment. But what you're trying to do, basically, is just create a nice canopy for when you're coming down through the tunnel here. kind of like a tunnel of trees as you're coming around the corner. But being careful not to put the trunks too close to the road. And let me give you an aerial view here. You can see where I've placed all of these. And again, the placement isn't exact. You can tweak this however you like. As long as they're close, doesn't really matter. But I ran these all the way down here, about 2 deep. That's enough for the player. They don't need to go any deeper than that. I left this area open over here, so as you're coming around, you can see kind of kitty corner as you're driving over there, and notice that there's a ramp coming up. I've got 2 plants over here on this side to cover up the fact that I've got a plain surface over here that's not nicely decorated. Didn't feel that I needed that. This was a little bit cheaper on memory, so I did that. And I threw a couple more trees here. And then as we come up top, we've got some trees set up along there, again to kind of hide that edge. And over here, this is going to be low ferns. And then these are going to be palms after I style these. And so you'll notice I didn't go all the way back and fill all this space. Didn't need to. The player's going to be driving by here so fast, you just want to give them the idea that there's a depth of trees there, a depth of plants, and that's sufficient. And again, because we got a straight edge over here, I covered up that edge with those plants. I didn't put one here because the player's not going to see that. They're going to be coming down this side over here, and as you can see, you can't really see that corner, so there's no need to waste memory putting a plant here. And then I put some debris in here for where the bridge will be, and this is just fixed. And all of these come from the Building Sets Group 2. There's a bunch of different terrain or debris pieces here. This one's a little further down in the drawer. You got all of those. And I'm just trying to put a lot of debris here to indicate that the bridge is there. And again, I'm not putting those down with a replayer. It's actually always there. And then we're using the large tree again through here to kind of fill up this space. And then from this side, we're covering it up with these plants here. Just trying to make it look solid to the player so that they don't think that they can drive through there. And if they try, I want to make it difficult. And then we got a couple of plants up here like this, followed by a couple of trees, large trees, and then some more fantasy terrain strips. And again, you'll notice that doesn't go all the way back and fill this empty space. Doesn't need to. On this side, we got some trees, some more fantasy terrain strips. And if you don't like the way I've placed mine, you can place yours any way you like. And I placed this over here. I tweaked this a little bit. I got it set up where there's just a long narrow piece here. And I wrapped this around the edge there so it's a little bit tighter. And coming around the corner then, over here we've got a few more of the large trees just to kind of have a little something off to the side there as you're going along. And that will help cover up the fact that this end over here isn't finished. It's cheaper to put a few trees in here to cover that up and hide that way. And then a couple of trees there. Some trees up here as you're starting up the rise. And a row of trees along there. And that's so that as you're coming up, kind of softens that steep edge. And then over on this side, we have just a little cluster of trees over here with a couple of terrain strips. And all of these are just to cover up that hole, basically. And again, you don't have to fill this space over here because the player's not going to see that. And again, some terrain pieces there, or some plants rather there. And then down on this level, got a couple more trees along through here. A couple of these fantasy terrain strips there, and then some bigger trees again down here as you're coming off of the hill. And then as we get up here, I've actually got some trees up here, but these aren't going to be trees when we're done. And this just kind of helps lock in the edge of that road. I've got a couple of barriers I put down, although I'll probably put those down with a replayer before I'm done, so I can put them back after each race. A couple of pieces here on the end of this. And I tweaked this over here a little bit. I went ahead and wrapped this around the edge with a little corner piece there, just to kind of fill that a little bit better, and stuck another tree in here. And then some trees over here. Some trees along here like this to try to hide the seam between the terrain, the two terrain styles. And then we added some trees along here as you're coming down off of the slope. A few trees out this way. You don't really need too many. And again, I could have gotten by without these because I have that nice finished edge there. But I thought I might do something just a little bit different over here and put some plants along there. And these are just the pieces that are flipped around a little bit. And then some larger pieces here and some terrain strips to cover up that unfinished edge. And I'm just trying to fill some space here and make this kind of deep to give the illusion that these trees go all the way back. And again, I'm just trying to give you a good look at what I've got here so that you can try to recreate this yourself if you want, but you don't have to get everything precise. And you don't have to make it look exactly like mine. You can place these as much as you want. These trees here are designed to kind of hide the seam between the Phineas and Ferb terrain and the Dinosaur World terrain, so it's not as abrupt. And then this piece here comes from the set pieces drawer. That's for King Louis's throne. That just adds a nice front on the edge of that coming into the tunnel here. And I went ahead and styled the racetrack inside of here to use the temple theme as well. That just seemed appropriate. And then out here, along this way, we've got some trees placed. And I'm trying to give it the illusion that this is all packed full of trees, but you'll notice it isn't. But the player isn't going to know that. They'll be racing around that track and they won't see that, and that's fine. And then a few plants over here along the back side of these buildings to kind of hide a little bit of that ugliness. And then I've got a bunch of these across here. And you'll see what that's for after I style everything. Coming around this way, We've got one of these pieces right off the corner of that building, and everything else kind of fits after that. And I did stick just a palm, regular palm in here, so you can do that as well. Just to add a little bit of interest. Some bigger trees again to fill this amount of space over here. And along here, some of these, again, to kind of hide the difference in terrain there, so it's not quite as stark. Another little lone palm. And then these are here to kind of help cover up the ugliness down there from this direction. And I probably could have left some of these off because I have this nice finished edge here, but again, it's kind of wide, so I figured nice to have something there to fill that space. And then coming around the corner, we've got a large tree and a strip. And a tree down here actually sitting on the beach. Another large pirate tree there. Fit some different things in here, and I'm kind of fitting these in to try to discourage the player from cutting through and cheating. So that's why that's kind of thick. So that's what I've got for the plants. So now the bulk of these are going to use the pirate theme. So we'll go ahead and style. And if we go to the left, to the pirate's terrain, I am going to theme all, even though not all of these are going to be that, but the majority are. So we'll set that to be the theme. And that'll change most of these, or actually all of these plants, and then we just have to go fix a handful. And there we go. And that looks really good. So you can see how those little ferns down there hide that seam. So that's really good. Now these on the beach we're going to change to be the Lilo and Stitch ones. And so if we come over here to the Hawaiian Sandcastle, and I'll apply that. This one is going to use the Hawaiian theme as well. Let's see, I gotta go left. Hawaiian tree and surfboard. That needs to use the Hawaiian tree. This needs to use the Hawaii theme. That gives us our tiki. This one, most of the beach ones here are the Hawaii themes. That gives us our lifeguard seat. This one gives us a little beach strip, which looks kind of neat. And then this one, another Hawaiian tree. And so there's our beach. And that looks really good. And then over here, the ones along the edge here for the field, I put these along here to kind of hide that terrain seam. And these are going to use Farmer Mickey's terrain, which kind of looks like some plant stalks. And I kind of thought that was appropriate for the field. Kind of gives the illusion that there's plants that go on that way, in that direction. And we've just got a long strip of these across here. And you can pretty much do all this yourself, but I probably didn't need to make you watch all of this. And you'll notice I didn't run it all the way down to the end because the player is not likely to see all of that with all those trees sitting there. And so that kind of gives you the idea that there's plants out there. So I like that. But yeah, this looks really good. Get all these styled, and it just looks amazing. Now the last set of plants that we need to change are the ones up here and at the volcano. And for these, we are going to use the Nomancian Island corners. And that just kind of adds to the lava theme that's up here. And so any of these that are really sitting on top of the lava are going to use that theme. I just kind of like that because it adds a little bit of visual interest up here where it is needed. Because otherwise it's just too plain. And these corners go pretty well with that volcano that's over there, so that's really good. Kind of helps tie this terrain over here into that. Lets you know that it's part of the volcano. And this is going to be a little bit longer video today, isn't it? Sorry about that, but I know you're eager for me to move on to the actual race logic. So there we go. That looks really good. Okay, there we are. I like how that looks. And with that, the build exercise for this toy box is pretty much done. Next week, we'll start working on the logic for this toy box, beginning with the exploding bridge. You won't want to miss that, so be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already by clicking my photo in the lower right corner. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.